And I really had a graw for the mobile side of things. So I had a great lecturer, Jenny, and she was kind of part industry, part lecturing. She really showed us how to build on Android, and there was an app, we did, like, this is the future, the kind of where things are going, obviously. And MTT is basically mobile travel technologies, and it was a company built around the premise that the world is moving to mobile and travel needs to be done through that. We built apps, beautiful apps for airlines, because they didn't really know how to. So mobile, iOS, Android, mobile web.
This week's episode, I'm speaking to CTO John Doran of Phorest. We talk about his earlier careers in mobile development, how he went on to MTT and then got acquired, and then he went on to be an engineer and continued that career path within Phorest, and now the CTO. Great leader, incredible stories. Hope you enjoy.
Phorest is a salon software, so we basically power salons, brick and mortar businesses all over the world, to basically allow salons and to run, to grow. In terms of engineering principles, so we have 3 engineering principles on our side. So we talk about pace with pragmatism, building with empathy. The last one is making the next step easier than the last. I think the reason why I joined Phorest is probably what you're going to ask me next, or how did that happen? And I'll never forget it, because...
John,
hey,
welcome. I want to start, as I like to start, kind of early on, and when you're growing up in Bray, and a lot of times the seeds of many values and principles are learned from an early age.
Yeah. Give
me a sense of your father's influence and what impact that had on you when you reflect.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, when you ask most people what were they like as a kid, you probably think, oh, most of them were little shits, just kind of football, school, whatever. And for me, growing up in Bray was amazing, by the seaside, and, just kind of great friends around me and stuff. My dad runs like painter decorator, small business, and it's funny when I look back, he would have made me work. Like, he made me work, and from a very young age, and that kind of instilled, I guess, a lot of good principles throughout the years. I'll never forget even seeing like boom time and him having like 40 guys working for him, and stressed, very like just totally helped me really resonate with the real world, I guess, as growing up.
And you went out, so you were working with him.
Yeah. I'll never forget, like...
Did you say you were the redhead of it? You were a bit bold, were you?
The brother was the bold lad. The brother was the bold lad. Burned my mom's car down when he was 5 years old. Yeah. I swear to God, yeah. Playing with matches. Yeah. So, he was the bolder guy. But I'll never forget, freezing cold winter, he'd have me out like scraping railings and stripping paint off stuff and everything. So, not too fun.
Ground you though, right? Yeah. Like that value of money, work, that work ethic.
Actually having to earn your money, not just getting it handed to you, and probably don't do as good a job with my own kids now these days, but I need to take.
We're all a little bit guilty of that, I think. So fast forward a little bit, right? So I'm just going to go straight here, right? What age are you? Your girlfriend Naomi at the time, right? Mm-hmm. What age were you when she fell pregnant?
Yeah, so me and my wife now, what age are we? We're 33. We've been together since we were like 15. Yeah. And what would you call it? The school child sweethearts, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, she would have been pregnant with Freya when we were 19, so we just kind of finished school.
Wow.
Yeah. So
moment.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a scary one, I'd say. Definitely totally different position to a lot of what my friends have been in. So.
But that was like, at that time, you would probably, it was a real sliding doors moment, right? You could have probably doubled down and worked with your dad and that business, or you decided to take the tech route and go to college and work your ass off, right?
I always loved gaming and the usual stuff, PlayStation, PCs, all that good stuff. Yeah. And I was in just first year DIT, and got that fun news and kind of, life flashed before your eyes. What the hell do we do here? And it was, my partner's amazing and supported me, in that choice to just keep going. And that was it. Like, and I think what happened was I had to kind of fast forward my mental model by 10 years, as in, can't be going to Coppers and doing 10 Jaeger bombs tonight. I need to go do a bit of work tomorrow. And that was
The
great
grandeur.
yeah,
really
definitely,
kinda,
I would say so, and good family support around me as well, and definitely very lucky with that. Yeah.
Now you're humble and unassuming, right? Which is one of your great traits. But I'm gonna unravel that a little bit today, right? So you were brilliant in college. Like you got great. You were a rising star. You worked hard. You got some great recognition for that. Like what was that? That was that just grit, determination?
I couldn't take the piss basically in college and not do good. If I was going to do it, I had to work hard. And I even remember doing my final year project. We went over to see my sister-in-law in Australia, and I remember like it was like, you're on holidays. Like, should you not be like on holidays? I was like, no, like I need to do this project. I need to do really well. I need like go up every morning and crunching and stuff on it.
So you just had that discipline.
Yeah, I had to, like, no choice. Yeah. So, and
but you did have a choice.
Yeah, well, no.
But you just kind of had that dogged kind of mindset.
Definitely, yeah. So I'll never forget, like, we were graduating in the cathedral, and I was sitting down, just like rocked in to get my piece of paper, and some lady came over to me. She was like, you John? And I was like, yeah, that's John Doran, yeah. I thought I lost my jacket or something, She's like, wow, congratulations. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, oh, you've got like student of the whole business department and top of the class and stuff, and two words. I was like, holy crap, like that's pretty cool. yeah.
Hey, deservedly so. But then, I think you said to me before, like you had a real draw for mobile dev, and you really kind of Android dev. You really grew into that, and then
I loved it.
Lo and behold, then mobile travel technologies.
Yeah. It was like and I'm sure a lot of graduates could come to this position like around, where do I go? Like, what type of company do I want to work for and stuff? And I really had a graw for the mobile side of things. I had a great lecturer, Jenny, and she was kind of part industry, part lecturing, and she brought in she really showed us how to build on Android, and there was an app we did and stuff. It was just the type of stuff you do in college is very Java enterprise-y stuff you'll never probably actually use in the industry. But when I seen that, it was kind of like, oh, like this is the future, the kind of where things are going, obviously. And as you said, MTT was the kind of one of the options. It was the big Accenture, no disrespect to anyone, Accenture, and the other types of companies that the startup with no product market fit, and then just these other types of offers. And I got drawn in by Pascal and the opportunity to work on mobile, and I felt that even how they tested me really like shown during the interview process that they wanted me in to write code and do stuff, and I felt that through the process. It was a bit of a bet, I guess. At that age, you don't really know what type of decisions you're making, but just lucky to get in there and work with some great people and learn from them.
And talk to me a bit more about the people you worked with, because I know about their reputation, and I've seen people go through that organization and the success they had, and the work ethic. Like I'm a big fan of the people that worked in there. Like for those that don't know MTT, like give me a sense of how that really accelerated your growth.
MTT is basically mobile travel technologies, and it was a company built around the premise that the world is moving to mobile and travel needs to be done through that means. So the long short of it is we built apps, beautiful apps for airlines, because they didn't really know how to. So mobile, iOS, Android, mobile web, and we were ahead of the times where we were building responsive and stuff as well. And worked with some of the biggest airlines in the world, EasyJet, AirAsia, like Singapore Airlines. There's tons of them. But I would say, to describe the company and the culture, it was a relentless speed and pace of execution. Really, really strong technical people from places like Bray, and really good technical people, and just a constant relentless focus on execution and getting shit done, and basically building great apps for airlines. And went into kind of the hotel side of it as well and stuff too. But it wasn't
Hilton, and that wasn't one of your top clients.
But it wasn't huge. Like we were up in the digital hub. We had a small enough space, and we had a little attic in another building as well. But it was quite cool. We like, what I learned there was kind of around obviously building mobile apps, and it was a lot of back-end infrastructure scales, connecting to these big GDS systems and trying to make reservations and check people in and stuff. And then it was about productizing the work that we were doing for all of these individuals. So trying to build a technical product that we could reuse, resell. And that was really exciting, like great learning curves around that as well. So it was good.
many of our listeners or viewers may have or will likely be working in an organization that might be acquired or going through an acquisition. MTT was acquired, right?
Yeah.
What learnings do you have from that process?
Yeah.
Good, bad?
Yeah, a lot. Like it was exciting to see, that kind of that whole exercise happening, and was part of the diligence and stuff. To be able to kind of showcase the value of what you've built, and for people to see outside of value, and that is something to be really proud of. It was at the start, it was a kind of a more of a, we're now owned, but everything's staying the same, and over time that a lot of that changed. So for me, I seen the culture changing, and leadership changes, and it just things start to misalign, I guess, with why you were there in the first place, because there's a different trajectory. Maybe there was a reason why the acquisition happened, and so
what do you mean, like, so the value, the purpose, the
so like the purpose of the company may need to change based on what the acquirer wants it to do, and stuff. So
the reality of that.
Yeah. So I found, for me, that just I really liked solving customer problems and working on a platform side of things, and there was still a lot of that happening, but it was just at a different scale that I wanted to be in. So that was the main thing, if that makes sense.
No, it does, definitely. Yeah. So then, like, you found yourself, because you haven't worked at loads of companies, right? You're obviously a loyal, which I love to see. But you found yourself working for Phorest. For listeners, again, of viewers that think they're a spin-off from Quilter or something, who are they? Explain.
Phorest with a PH. Phorest is a salon software. So we basically power salons, brick and mortar businesses all over the world, in the hair and beauty space, to basically allow salons and to run, to grow, and to kind of really operate effectively. I think the reason why I joined Phorest is probably what you're going to ask me next, or how did that happen? And I'll never forget it, because basically our director of product in MTT at the time was leaving, and he was trying to find his next place, and me and him weren't actually that close, but I sat opposite him one day, and I slammed my beer down on the table. I was really pissed off about something, and he was like, we should have a chat, and the rest is history. But I remember actually getting an offer and turning it down, because I was a bit iffy about, like, why this I was a bit shaky about it. And I remember actually there was a couple of things that swayed it for me. One was that my wife knew about Phorest, even though I didn't. And she knew about it because she did beauty therapy back in the day in college, and she had a certificate for it. And I was like, okay, so this is actually a thing. This is a real thing. And then the other thing was about actually Ronan, and I'll never forget the email he sent me when I said, no, I'm not coming. And it was about...
He's the CEO.
Ron's CEO, Ron Percival, CEO and co-founder of Phorest. And it was basically, I would never forget, it was basically, what do you want to achieve? And it really resonated with me, because what I was going through after the acquisition and what I was looking for was a company where I could have an impact, where I could see the value of the product that I was building in people's hands, and that I could believe in the mission and how it was going about getting there. So it was like, in the email, I'll never forget, it was stories about grow your own timber, which is a Phorest guiding principle of how people who started off selling loyalty gift cards now ran the main revenue lines for the business. And this type of, it's just so different in terms of the philosophy of how he's building the business, and that really, really drew me in. So that was probably a very important email sent by him at some point. Yeah.
Hey, fair play. You started there though as an engineer, and you grew, and your leadership career, I suppose, really took off. In Phorest, and maybe that grow your own timber probably means more about growth and how you
definitely
develop and learn and grow within, right?
Growing people with the company rather than hiring from outside, and really
talk to me a bit more about that journey and that path, because it's quite inspiring.
So like, I had a bit of an ego problem, I guess. I was a tech lead in MTT, and I'd moved pretty fast into that role, and I was like, oh, what, like, this is only an engineering role, I'm not being offered in Phorest. But the truth was, there was no other roles in Phorest. It was just like very flat, few people in there, and I had to I had to realize it's not a step down, even if you feel like it is, to to go in there because you're so excited about the opportunity. So basically just put the ego to the side and forget about titles and all that stuff. And then got in there, and basically, it wasn't joining for the tech, but the tech is a tech company. So we had to obviously do we had product market fit at that point. We were on cloud. So there was a lot of really great work had actually happened. So it was about scaling the product, scaling the team, the culture, being able to becoming a high output team that was having a real impact on the direction. So when I think about Phorest, it was 1,800 salons on the platform, and really good product market fit in the UK and Ireland. But it was about going into new geos, building lots of new features, product-led growth. So it was a lot about scaling that initial product, making sure it wasn't going down, making sure the engineers are productive. And an engineer can only do that so much. So I guess to answer your question, it was a step to a development manager, initially working with the team, growing it out, and then to director of engineering, and then to CTO. So that's kind of the path there, but my God, a different job every 6 months in terms of the challenges and the what you need to, the problems you need to solve. They really evolve and you have to lean into them to be able to kind of to grow. It's not easy, not an easy job.
No, but I think it's gonna. Well, I think it's gonna land and resonate with a lot of people, but. One thing that I'm really curious to ask you is when you go from, an individual contributor, a real thought leader, one of the top engineers, and you take that path, and when you then get to more senior management, how you evolve, right? In relation to, and one thing you said to me before was knowing when to speak and when not to speak, right?
Yeah.
What does that really mean? Give me an example and tell me that story in relation to that growth.
If you're going to hire great people and let them to grow, then you have to get out of their way, basically, and let them fail. And that's something I was trying to protect people for too much. I was trying to protect people in terms of them making mistakes. I was trying to cover their ass, basically, and you have to let them fall, sometimes fall hard, so they can pick themselves up and for them to grow. And it was feedback I got from people who I was trying to get to engineering manager and stuff. They were basically saying get out of my way and let me fail on this stuff. And that was, I guess, a learning along the way. But it is very much about, you hire all these great people and they're in these roles. You have to create an environment where they have the autonomy to make decisions, to, put their own path forward. And so I would say my job as it evolved is more so as kind of the leader model of, intent leadership, basically, where you want to just give them the kind of the rails and the kind of bandwidth to make their own decisions and their own path forward. And if there's something big along the lines there that needs to be discussed, that's what you're there for. As a senior leader, you're there to be more of a coach and a mentor, and not actually this is the mantra. But sometimes you do, you have to create a vision. You have to talk to a lot of people to understand the business problem, the context, the challenges, and shape that into something that's tangible for people to actually go towards. So does that answer your question?
No, it definitely does, and it just leads me to another thought in relation to the personality profile. I'm kind of a bit of a geek with this kind of stuff. You'd be like a high red, right? So typically
McQuaig says I'm a high red. Yeah. Off the
typically
charts.
the consequences of that. Yeah. One can struggle with maybe delegation. One can, particularly those that are ambitious and have a work ethic, burnout, different things. Definitely. Share some of the consequences of that profile.
Yeah, I guess through the middle stages of, doing some of that heavy infrastructure work and just scaling the team, I was way too hands-on. I only up till about 2 years ago, I was one of the main people on call for, an issue or an outage or anything like that. And that was not good, not healthy at all for an org. We were about 25, 30.
But you'd salons all over, right? This wasn't just UK and Ireland.
They were talking US, Germany, Australia, everything. So, big infrastructure, lots going on. And it was myself and two other principal engineers. We were just getting everything thrown at us, text from the CEO when something would happen. So that was definitely one that we evolved and grew to, a proper on-call process that's shared by folks and encourages learning around it. And that was a good step.
But were you too controlling then, do you feel? Like when you reflect back, like what was it? Or was it just you took it on? You're just like, I'm going to take, this is me.
It wasn't control. It was basically, I just wanted to get shit done and I wanted to deliver value and make progress and momentum. But I basically realized very early that me as an IC, or someone who is trying to manage and do stuff at the same time, is never going to have the impact as someone who can just step back and make sure everything is calm and clear and everyone knows who needs to do what. And that's, I guess, the learning around it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's more about kind of the
It's
maturity.
been a multiplier. It's been a multiplier, basically.
Okay,
I would say that. Yeah.
That's a good expression. Yeah. Okay. And right now, like as a leader, as a CTO of a super successful business, like right now, then, like what genuinely keeps you up at night, like in relation to your role and the business, like?
Oh, a few bits, but like people is the main thing. Like I would say I'm very people centric, and I really care about the people around me, that they're happy in their job and that they're winning. So I really want to make sure that they constantly know that they're winning and making sure that, that they have a path towards that. The other side of it is just generally, as a growing business and the scale Phorest is, there's more eyeballs on us, and it means that there's more risk of failure, and the stakes are higher. So things like IT security, scalability, the resilience and reliability of the platform just has to be bulletproof. We're processing literally billions of euros every year in payments for salons. It's the heartbeat of the business, so it has to be up, safe, secure all the time. So I guess it's people,
and that's on you, right? That's
at the end of the day, it all falls on me. Yeah. So that's why those few extra grey hairs came through COVID.
Definitely not. Well, I get some good filters on the vid now. I'm just kidding. When you look like at other kind of CTOs and the path to CTO and what a real, a successful CTO is, there's a few different variations of that title, right? You know, the commercial, like when you look at the different hats that you wear, like how would you describe, the CTO that you are? Like, what do you actually think? Like, because it's going to resonate with different people, right? So
I remember like really working through this hard with Ronan around it, and us being very clear on what Phorest needs as well as CTO. So the way I look at it is you kind of have the three archetypes, I would say, where you have the scientific, research driven, very much future AI, ML, whereas then you've got the kind of front of house CTO, I would say, the person you put on stage and sells the keynoter. And I would say then you've got, and they all overlap, but then you've kind of got the operator, the strategic operator in the middle. And I would say that's me. I really love, strategy, like company vision, strategy, getting that into like team goals and execution, high performing teams, all that kind of stuff. That's me. I think. Yeah.
No, but so you thrive on that. That's your buzz.
Definitely. That's what gets me up in the morning.
Excited.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the role in a board and like being, from a peer-to-peer type of, or just showing up for the board, right? And that kind of skill set. What have you learned in relation to the your role and the value in relation to a board seat?
So I'm actually not on the board of Phorest, but I'm on the C team. So that's basically the senior leadership team, and lots of exposure to going into the board, presenting, various parts. But I'll answer the two of them. So from like the C team's perspective, you are the representative of tech in the company, or you're the representative of product or revenue, whatever it is. But so your job is to make sure that people understand what the hell is going on, what are you up to, what is the impact you're having around the work that you're doing, and trust, like that people trust that you're going to actually be there when, something happens or when there's an opportunity that you can execute on it. So that's a big part of it. And being a partner as well, not just from tech, but for all of the other departments, like they depend on you for your insights as much as I depend on them for their insights around operational, customer success, everything around that. So you have to look at your time differently when you're like and I'm preaching to the choir here probably, but around how much time you spend with people in your department versus other departments versus that team versus your leadership team in engineering. So you've kind of got all these different levels.
So that's a real conscious thing though that you've had to.
Yeah, it's hard, like, because I track all, like,
busy,
you have to track time. You need to track your time, where the hell you're spending it, and in terms of focus, you should really be 40% probably outside of your department and looking at everything else. So that's interesting. So then, sorry in terms of board, very lucky to have an amazing board in Phorest who challenge you, support you, and lucky enough to present to them and various opportunities or updates around R&D, and I guess you have to think like an investor. You have to think like it's your money, and you have to be able to basically be bulletproof in terms of your proposal or what you're doing. You need to think about what holes are there, what risk is there around it, and be ready to be challenged in a healthy way around that. Definitely.
It's clear though that the values that you referenced earlier, like the value of money and understanding that from your father, and that business, and how that's clearly how you kind of present and understand the burn, because a lot of people do make some errors in relation to cost of engineering. Like it's expensive to build great products, right?
Not a cheap bunch, no, not a cheap bunch at all. So you have to and that's something, I guess, around, in terms of engineering principles. So we have 3 engineering principles on our side. So we talk about pace with pragmatism. We talk about building with empathy. Those types of things are super important. The last one is making the next step easier than the last. So when I think about, we've got those principles, but they're very much, the TLDR is, you're not going to save the world tomorrow and solve all of the engineering because you're building tech debt, you're building scale. You're not going to be able to solve it all in one one fell swoop. So you have to kind of follow the Boy Scout rule and make the product better as you're working on it and evolving it. And think of your colleagues as you're doing that, and how to make it better. So I would say, I think that's why one of the reasons why we have a lot of momentum, because our output is of a high quality, but we're constantly making the product better and thinking about it long term. So I guess it comes back to as well, like understanding the value of, or the cost of, stop the lights, we need to rebuild everything kind of stuff,
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've heard that your team and the people that work there, the adoption and the process, continuous integration, continuous delivery, the release cycles, is bloody good, right? So how did you learn all of this? Like, and what what are some of the failings that you've learned on the way that's kind of made you really good at this, right? Because clearly, to do that continuous delivery, that culture, the bringing people in, the people that get it, and the land and execute like with that relentless kind of precision, is not easy, right?
It's not, and it's a change for people. When you look at it, and you look at books like Accelerate, which is a book all about how to build high performing businesses, and the correlation between your output as an engineering team, how frequently you're shipping, how fast it takes for you to fix an issue when it does actually happen. Those types of things, when you measure them and look at them, have business impact. So if you're shipping every half a year, that's your only chance to validate a bunch of assumptions you've just spent 6 months building, and they might be wrong, or they might break, and you might have to roll back, and then you're waiting another long time to get them out there. So I think it comes back to, in terms of our values and how we think about it as an engineering org, is to ship fast and often, and to remove the risk of just having wrong assumptions, and the time it takes to do that is extremely important. So for us, we do things like shipping 10, 20, 30 times a day, little changes in small batches, which means that we can build features in production that are live and maybe hidden for certain people, and then gradually as the features develop, we can get them on board early, and we can control who sees them and stuff. But it removes risk and it removes headaches. And we did a big launch, like we called it our collections, Phorest collections, during actually just last month. But what they were was basically massive like features and they've been live for months. Things like new reporting engine, new payments engine, new e-commerce platform for selling products online. So we built all of this stuff, but there was literally on launch day, there was zero drama. And people came to me from like different companies and they're like, should you guys not be up all night, like with like pizzas and beers and like really stressed? And I was like, no, like this has been live for months. We've been testing and validating this stuff. We know it works. People have seen it. It's not like we're just all waking up one day and trying to compile 6 months worth of code and ship it to production. So I think
what a team. Like,
very
really,
lucky and really smart people have implemented techniques and tools to be able to do that. And you know, from when an engineer is thinking about solving a problem, writing the code to getting it to production, people really are passionate about that, and it's lovely to see people as passionate about it as I am in the team who really care about that. Yeah.
The market right now is changing a little bit, right? For a little understatement, but you know, from a macro environment, there's changes, right? Yeah. So as a CTO, when you're hiring or retaining or looking at, you know, other forces, right? What can you share in relation to your insight, in relation to what you're seeing, or what's your prediction, and tell me about how that impacts you as a CTO?
Yeah, well, it's really sad, first of all, I guess, to see people, you know, losing jobs and their livelihood, and it feels a bit like we're on our knees in some ways around that side of things.
As a sector.
Yeah, definitely as a sector. Like it's sad to see so many good people laid off, and particularly the roles that supplement engineering are you know, people in recruitment, talent acquisition, in different area marketing and stuff. And they're hard. That's hard. I feel for them, and I think there's a lot of people trying to capitalize on it, which I don't really like. You know, kind of, you know, we're, you know, kind of going out there and saying, you know, we're still good, come to us, and you know, this kind of, you know, almost
showboating
a little bit. Not mad on that at all. So I think that you know, people went for the vanity valuations and the big money, and they overspent and inflated the salaries to a ridiculous level, and it was never a fight I wanted to get in with that side of things. So, you know, it's just, we can't and don't want to compete with, you know, the kind of, you know, the RSUs, the big shares and stuff. It's just not the size or type of company Phorest is. My thoughts around it are that I hope it gets better. I hope that the folks that have been let off can find good roles in great companies. And I think that, you know, it's hopefully something that takes us to a positive turn next year.
Definitely, yeah. I'd echo that. But like you fundamentally, you're an organization that, you know, like the mechanisms of great business, you know, in relation to income, relation to expenditure, like it's a solid company though, right?
It changed our mindset on, you know, we were growing heavily, we were investing in growth, and we have to balance that now and really look inward at, and I think a lot of people are doing this. I think a great starting point is look in the bank, how much money would be there if you didn't raise any money, and use that as your starting point. And obviously reducing burn, frivolous spend, and also just like, I think people take the value of our open role for granted, and they really need to understand the cost of that and the impact. So for an engineer manager or someone who is on a growth trajectory, honestly, I remember Jerry Samuel saying this to me when he was finishing up in MTT. He's like, you need to understand and learn the P&L and what makes the business tick and how profit is working and the EBITDA side of it. He said that to me, and it still sticks with me. You know, it doesn't matter what department, you still need to understand how the business ticks and what way what are the levers that can be pulled. And I think, you know, the value of a role is extremely important. And I've seen it, even a great shift for us. Like we're going after some new opportunities, but we're not hiring for it because we've got great people internally and growth opportunities for them to take them on. And that's really exciting as well, you know, because hiring is hard. There's also the risk of mishiring and it hurting your culture. And you know, that I really love the thoughts of kind of growing and maturing the team with the team you have, rather than kind of this mad accelerator.
Grow your timber. Yeah. Jeez, I love that.
Yeah.
Phrase and the play on the culture of kind of what I was saying earlier. But when you look at Ireland, again, I like to put the Irish kind of get your thoughts on Ireland and where we're at as a sector, as an industry, and as an ecosystem.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on where we're at, or where the opportunity is, and your experience and successes in Ireland? Like what's been your learnings, or where are we at as a country in relation to tech and
I think like we've attracted great talent into the country, and even in particular folks that I friends with, work with, and none have come to Ireland to work in the tech sector has been amazing. I think we have a really great community actually of folks, and the circle is actually really small. Everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
And you would even on the people who are falling harder times now, like I can see a lot of people outreaching, supporting, helping and stuff. So I really love that. I think there's a gap where it's quite lonely the more senior you go, and there's not many this podcast is awesome because you can kind of bring folks together and share these types of things, but there is generally a silo of people all solving similar problems in different ways, and not coming together to share those things. So I've even just been on a couple of CTO forums with internationally, and I think there's definitely a gap there. Might give you a little inspiration to do something. Maybe.
Hey, thank you.
But
thank you.
there is something around that, definitely. I organize ShipAcon. It's a tech conference which is community driven. It's built to share awareness for folks at all levels around how to ship software and the challenges that you can face around it. And that's grown from strength to strength. The community aspect of it has been brilliant, and I think I would say the strengths are around the community side of it in Ireland, definitely. I really feel it.
You have an incredible, inspiring story that shows just hard work. And even when, listen, like straight up, Ajay, you were dealt a tough hand, like in relation to 19 years of age, right? And that happening, like, holy crap. I just think it's a great example that no matter what card you get dealt, if you bring that kind of work ethic, that focus, anything's possible, right?
I don't think I'd be sitting here with you today if that didn't happen. I'd definitely, 100%. Yeah.
And fast forward then, you have another young one then.
A little surprise COVID baby came last year, Phoebe. So we're over the moon. Love her to bits. Great. And she's 1 in a couple of weeks. So she's keeping me up at night. I haven't slept much in a while, but love her to bits.
Can't tell that anyway. John, it's an absolute privilege and pleasure chatting to you. Thank you for coming in and sharing your story.
Thanks,
Emil.
Emil.
I still feel the best is yet to come for you.
Cheers.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Emil, man.